I ate grilled cheese off the radiator instead. Speaking of radiators, our radiator, driver's side, has not leaked a drop of the pink stuff since the last video. So we are good, we don't need to replace this. It can be easy to forget stuff. Let's pop off some of the block side coolant O-rings. And I'm also going to show you a dirty part of the oil pan. The fact that the oil pan looks like it's been resealed before. I'm not going to use brake clean directly on it, but the stains look old and we're just going to clean them up and see if they come back. So the picks I showed on the table are what I'm going to use to gently pry out the O-rings. Gently, do not scathe. Now coming down on the passenger side, there you see at the top middle of your screen one of the O-rings. So there's that gasket out. It's actually in very good condition, but you change all this stuff. So note the 3 tabs in case you mix your stuff up, but this will be on the order form. Now, this was over here on the passenger side. On the driver's side, for the water pump hookups, some of them with their hoses and the water pump itself, there's 2 more O-rings. Now, the brick and hitch setup for me, whatever you've used for yourself, you need to shift it back over to the passenger side, because getting the one on top, the second O-ring up there, is going to be trickier and you're going to bump your... It's just going to be more difficult if you don't move this over. So let's move. I'm going to move this over onto the other support part of the carrier and we will look at the other 2. So see, I just pulled the carrier forward to move that over and I got coolant falling out of some hole and puddle. So those of you that actually follow this whole series, you've seen how much this happens. So you really got to keep an eye on your coolant and oil leaks so that you don't miss anything and so that you don't misinterpret anything. Now let's go down under here on the driver's side and I'm going to show you the 2 O-rings. Alright, so there's your oil level sensor as a reference point. Right in the center of your screen is that easier one. You see the green O-ring, and just up and slightly to the left there's another hole. Okay, I can't zoom, I don't have 6 hands, but there's a black O-ring inside that one. I'm almost 90% sure that's also a coolant O-ring, but these are the 2 that need to be removed, and if that support had been in the way, getting that top one would be very difficult. So I'm just going to use a small 90-degree pick or the 45-degree picks you saw on the table, and I'll let you know how it goes. Again, be very gentle not to scathe the interior of the pipe, of the block side material, I mean. Audi coolant, really sticky. I'm going to bring some of my used cat litter and quickly clean this up before I do it, because this gets on your clothes or anything and it's trashed pretty much. Alright, so I am going to try to zoom, but I want to show you what happens when one of these cars gets in the hands of a careless person or a careless shop. Okay, because shops, most of them don't even have the patience to deal with these cars if they don't see them day in and day out. Alright, you guys can see the zoom there. Now, I thought a lot of this stuff was caked on oil, but around that ring there on the outside, okay, the thick silver part, where's my finger? Right there, that's gasket material, and also inside, that's gasket material. These things should not be there. I can't use those words on YouTube, but put gasket material and then put the green O-ring inside, okay? So, at least never found out where the coolant leak was on my car, or any of the other leaks. I don't know, let's not get into that, but the point here is, there's gasket material inside there. And maybe this is the time to show you guys. You might be able to see it. You see right there. See where my finger's going along the oil pan there? That is a giant bulge of gasket material, which means somebody tried to reseal this. I'll see there's more on the... where's my finger? Right there-ish. It's all bulging out. Very careless application of sealer, or it was just applied from the outside. Okay, I'm not saying we don't all do stuff like this, but the one inside there with the green O-ring, that's really messed up that somebody did that. So This is actually the area where I'm going to very carefully off camera clean up all this oil. I'll probably show it in the next video. And yeah, let's get the O-rings out now. But once I put the pick in there to pop out that green one, I scraped that material in there a bit because it was always weird for me when I saw that since we took the water pump off. And it's coming right off. It is material. So stay tuned for if we find out more about that. And there's the one further up. You can see some coolant crust buildup around there. We could have even had our leak right from that O-ring. That could have been the coolant leak altogether. But we'll never know for this car and this one, okay? Maybe even if we took the headlights out, if it was leaking from there, we would never see it. I don't know. You guys have seen all the videos, all the parts of this series, so let me pop these two out. I'm going to scrape out whatever residual residue there is inside these block side pipes, whatever you want to call them, inlets, and on the outsides of them. And I will get back to you once the gaskets are out. Some as it happened, so you guys don't think I'm making this up. Look, there's the green gasket, and you can... Canon autofocus cannot focus on thin objects. Okay, Canon. Who am I yelling to? Okay. Look if you can see it through the blurred screen. That is gasket material. Some brainless person has been working on this car in the past. And yeah, you guys get the lesson. I repeated this many times, but more important is look inside. There's your proof right there. Look. Once the green gasket's out, I have an entire ring of gasket material that I'm now taking out with the pick and cleaning out the inside. So do not give these cars to average mechanics ever. Look there, all these chunks of gasket are coming out of that ring. I'm not trying to complain overly, but man, I've been going at it in service position here very annoyingly. I can't imagine how annoying the upper one is, but it doesn't look like there's gasket material there. Getting it all out is very hard with the pick because it's deep in that groove where the green O-ring goes. So you got to really pay attention that you get all the stuff in the bottom part of the groove because you can't even see it when you're working. I still think all of this, when the shop took out the AC compressor for the previous owner and did this stuff, I am 90% sure that was not a very specialist shop for these cars. And I think they did something silly like this, or some tech or somebody's like, I know a trick to put like this kind of gasket and it helps these not to leak. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'll try to figure out, but man, I'm tired and this stuff is extra, very extra. So I will keep scraping away at this gasket material that's unnecessarily inside of that pipe O-ring groove. And then I'll move on to the one on the top. But I just wanted you to see how much more material is still coming out. And there's still more that I'm working on. Actually, the point of that clip was to tell you that one small mistake like this, leaving a piece of gasket in there, could be a leak in itself. And you got to be real precise with these cars if you don't want to take them apart again. So, yeah, pay attention. Because your car could have this kind of weird stuff on a different stage that I never had. Okay? So you gotta be looking out for the weird things on your car as you're doing this stuff. Don't think this is straightforward with cars that are this old. Nothing straightforward with old vehicles. I just mentioned that the pick is not getting out some of the rest. I could get it out with the pick, but I'd have to start scraping pretty hard. And that's what will make that O-ring mating surface possibly leak. So now that once you go gentle with the pick, however much gasket material you get. But after that, you got to switch to a combination of needle nose pliers to grab the chunk of gasket material and pull that out with that so that you don't scathe the inside of the O-ring mating surface with the pick. So there's some more material. You see that large half moon there? That came out. Now, like I said, you can't see the rest. So I'm actually going to get a extendable, adjustable mirror to see the inside of the mating surface on the bottom. These mirrors are excellent tools. They extend, they swivel. The trick to a lot of German car repairs are going to be these mirrors to see where problems are coming from. But one thing people don't do is you can shine the light into the mirror and look into another part of the mirror to see the problem, which gives you the best lighting. You need more skill for this, but I've seen people try to put a flashlight in from one side and then look in the mirror and they don't have good light. You can use the mirror itself, I'm repeating, to shine the light in and see. So that's what I'm going to do because I don't want a small chunk of gasket material causing this whole car to come apart again. So what I've done here is just for demonstration purposes, okay? But you see how I'm moving the mirror around inside the hole? This is how you see. There were chunks stuck in there. There were chunks that wouldn't come out. In the end, after the pick, I had to use my glove, go around in there, and a microfiber towel. But you keep checking back and forth to make sure there's no chunks left in there if such an oddity has occurred with your vehicle. Again, there could be a 1% chance that you're supposed to apply this sealant. I'm going to ask the parts supplier because they're very knowledgeable. But this makes absolutely no sense. But here is some trickery for you to know how to make sure nothing like this happened to you if you ever put your car back together to not have issues. All right, moving on to the top one. So that O-ring up there is a bit thicker and tougher than the green one. The small 90-degree pick went in just fine underneath. Do not scathe anything. Just go gentle until you get it. So there is the hefty gasket, and I'm having a hard time believing this, whether this is something Audi does, because I'm trying to... This one also, I'm going to show you inside, you're going to see gasket material, like somebody put some applied sealant. So, I just pulled that out with the pick. Now let's go back under. Take a look. You see that piece of gasket material, applied sealant, hanging out of the block side hole there? That is gasket material. It is not part of the gasket that we pulled. And there's a lot more inside of that groove in there. This is the best the camera will focus with the car being in service position. So I really have to clean it up as best I can. This is some ridiculous stuff, or I'm a ridiculous person for not knowing that there's that Audi sealant gets applied before O-ring goes in like this, but I've never seen this on any brand of vehicle that you put applied sealant before those style O-rings. But I will make sure with the parts supplier because they will give us the correct answer. So don't believe any of my rants for now, even though I think I'm right. Okay, I'm going to clean this up and I'll get back with you. So far, this much gasket material has come out of that top O-ring hole. I'm about to... You can't say stuff like that on YouTube, okay? I'm not pleased with the person that worked on this vehicle previously and the Audi designers for saying service position is some kind of a neat thing. Because I've been scraping gently with the pick for 5 minutes at the same piece of gasket material that's stuck inside of that groove at the top O-ring hole. And it's just not coming out. We will get to the bottom of this, but I'm just going to keep going at it because one chunk is all it can take to ruin everything. That was one of the most annoying O-ring holes I've ever cleaned in my life. I finally got it out, and you know what really did it? The chunk that I couldn't get out with the picks, I put a microfiber rag around my finger, and I went in there and I kept going, went back with the pick. But the microfiber kind of was able to catch into that applied sealant material and finally pull it up where the pick just did not have enough contact surface area to be able to get that last piece off there, okay? Now, because you can't see inside that one with the mirror or anything because it's a smaller hole and it's further up, what you need to do is run a 90-degree mini pick just like this, all inside of that groove where that O-ring sits, okay? And you want to hug the outside edge, then you want to hug the inside edge, and you want to just feel with your godly presence the inside that there is no applied sealant in there. Most of you are not even going to have this problem, but I'm going over it because maybe you will, because I do. And you have to be really gentle, just listen carefully in a very quiet environment, because if it's noisy, you don't want to be scraping too hard in there to scathe the surface inside there. So it's just a quiet, audible, do I hear any patches? Patches would mean gasket material, because metal on metal sounds different than metal on sealant. So now that that's cleaned both of those holes, let's go back under here, and around those two holes I'm gonna clean it up with some brake cleaner. But honestly, you know what, I'm kind of scared to do it because there's that bulging sealant. Maybe it's time to show you. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. I can only do so much with my hands and the camera, and there you go, the light turned off by itself. Okay, believe me, okay, you guys can see, hopefully, that center part of the oil pan, it's some very terrible sealant application. So you know what, I'm not even going to clean it up in there. It's way too hard. We're going to wait for engine out time for that. If we have any active oil leaks, they will show themselves. I'm going to try to clean the oil pan a lot better before we put everything back together. But we're not going to touch anything excessive here so that we can rule stuff out. Yeah, all I'm pretty much trying to say is it's going to be very hard to actually get a good clean on those crazy grooves in there with service position and not blasting the whole thing with brake cleaner and causing issues possibly with the sealant for the oil pan, because that's the last thing I want. I do not want to do an engine pull before we get this car at least back on the road for a short while. So, not going to clean up around the two O-ring. Oh my god, man, this car's driving me nuts. We are not going to clean up the old caked residue around those two holes that go into this engine of this vehicle at all during this repair. Now I will make another video with all the parts that I need to order because we're almost there. I've already lost parts that I've bought, so look forward to that. So there's a final look at the 3 block side O-rings that we took out in this video and the associated applied sealant with these two. That one had absolutely none. And as I said, repeating for the 600th time, I will check with the part supplier. They will give me the correct answer. I'm going to store them all in a paint cap can until we do our parts order video. So here we are at the top of the engine. What did I lose? I will find it because I'm going to scour the entire garage after this and align all my parts together for the order. So everywhere in the house, everywhere in the garage, I'm going to search. But it was some kind of an secondary air injection vacuum solenoid thing that goes down there that I need to install to possibly alleviate some of the issues. And I think codes part 5. Another item of codes part 5 and our 7,000 RPM limp is our bank 1. I think for the rest of my life I will mix up bank 1 and bank 2. Now, I remember asking this on the forum and someone said that in Australia and other places bank 1 and 2 are flipped around. So make sure in your country you know which one is bank 1 and which one is bank 2, because your code reader is going to read in that country's brain. Unless you buy your code reader from a different country, but your car has the computer from your country. I don't know how it works. You got to figure it out. But all I know is that checking 100 times, fortunately for me, the flap sensor that is bad is this one here, okay, on the passenger side. If it was the one at the back, I'd be manifold off right now, not trying to do that for a short while again, okay? So, being in service position the way I am, those two little T20 Torx bolts, I can take them out very easily, okay? You can't do this if you're not in service position. You got to do manifold off, all right? I've clarified that in way previous videos for those of you that have been following the series. So I was going to leave this, but I'm going to take it off now to put it on the table so that I don't forget it when I do my parts order. And the SAI valve thing, man, I gotta find it because I do not want to pay for it again. So remember that. I got the video. Let me remove this and yeah. So the classic 1/4 inch Craftsman, we always use spanner with a little T20. You can never be ahead of the complexity of these cars when you're working on them, okay? So this little vacuum line thing here, I don't even know what it is anymore, SAI vacuum, but it has a little tab that went into something and there's nothing here, and I've gently set it forward to be able to take these out. So if you are doing this, be very careful with that, not to break or snap it. Welcome to this Audi world, yo. This is the kind of stuff you run into. So, yeah. Yes, and this didn't happen to me. Okay, see, my tools are here. But one other thing I want to tell you when you're working at the front of this car is never put tools on the intake manifold, because those pretty holes that they put here, you can drop stuff in there. Don't ask me how I know. And then you're going to have to pick them up the next time you do manifold off. So do not put your tools there even momentarily or temporarily. Now, the other thing I'm going to say about the T20s on the flap actuator, potentiometer, solenoid, people love calling them millions of different things, okay? Just flap actuator does it for me. The 1/4 inch spanner. Here's the most important part, especially with the bottom bolt, okay? You got to hold it from here. If you hold it on an angle, you can strip these pretty easily. They're really small bolts, so from the back, firm pressure straight in, and then start undoing it. And once you've undone it maybe 1/8 of the way, take it completely out and finish the rest off with your fingers by hand and take it out. Lesson number 2, never work on an Audi when you're tired or agitated, because on something as simple as this, I forgot that I have to undo the electrical connector first, which is one of the reasons you can't do this if the car is not in service position or manifold off. So before I take the top bolt out and that flap sensor falls right into the valley, I'm going to undo the electrical connector with a pick very carefully, or a small screwdriver. Most likely I'm going to use a 90-degree small pick to release the tab, and then I'm going to take the final top screw out and remove my flap sensor. So I've left the pick there so that I can show you. Carbon clean was a long time ago, I don't remember, but you see the tab right there at the center of your screen where you would normally press? I tried that with the pick because I thought I had enough hand space, but all these vacuum lines started wanting to cause problems and tear and whatnot. So I remembered, I think correctly, that 90-degree mini pick right inside here, okay? Underneath the tab, you just lift it up quickly, slides right out, butter like a charm. So that is the faster, safer way to do it than to do it where they intended you to actually press the tab to pull that electrical connector off. So just like videos before, it does not look like it has any mechanical damage on this side. And all of the electrical electrodes inside are clean, no corrosion, so it's internal. Now, if I get the new one and it goes on and everything's fine, let's cut this open and see what it looks like inside after. But for now, I'm just going to put it in the parts pile. If they do have the hardware for it, I will get it, because I've mentioned to you guys why I'm going to try to get as much new hardware as possible. If they don't have it, we're going to have to reuse a lot of the hardware that we have, because I am growing impatient for getting this car back on the road.